All right, what we're going to do is we are going to tie the Rockarts Redeye Rambler. That's what I've named this fly. It is an excellent fly for fishing for redeye bass in quick moving water, either being in a small stream or a large shoal in a river. Takes a good profile, looks like a bait fish pattern or crawfish pattern or anything depending on how you're going to fish it. You can let it hit the bottom and jig it up and down like a crawl. You can strip it quickly throughout the cross current, and they'll hit it as if it is a fish that's trying to escape something. And they'll take the side approach on it. Or you can just let it swing down through the current and then bring it back up to yourself. And it fishes really well. It has a decent action. I would typically throw it on a 4-weight or less. So hope that helps you guys out. I'm going to set it right there. And we'll go ahead and get to tying. So any really jig style hook, size 6, size 8, size 4, something like that, that should work out just fine. Okay, what you'll need: jig style hook, some brown thread or olive green thread, some bucktail. We're going to use this part of the bucktail right here. It's very soft, it's very pliable, it's very workable, holds a really good silhouette in the water, and it manipulates quite well with the current. We'll use brown or tan, or you can just get a white bucktail and use the center of that because it's relatively going to be the same thing. And then for the core, I like to use a chartreuse fly or a chartreuse bucktail, but I like to use the core out of it because it adds a little bit of color, which I think helps a lot. And it complements the flash and then the tan of the outer shell of the fly. You will also need some crystal flash, something similar to this color. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then these are my eyes of choice for this. Some super glue and some resin to finish it off. And maybe a little bit of lead if you want it to sink. I will be putting lead on this one. I'm going to use a little bit of a thicker thread for this. Cut off anywhere between 4 and 6 strands. I usually like to change the distance on them just a little bit, even though I'll still trim them in the end. And if you hold it like this and let it drape across, you can get those first few initial wraps really easily, at least just to get to hold it in place until you can manipulate it. Okay. Second thing, get your bucktail. We're going to tie it in about mid-shaft. Then we're going to tie it in slightly back. Reverse tie the second set. The first set we're going to tie mid-end. We're just going to tie a little cluster and let it go back. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. So I'm a little picky. I like to grab a little bit of the blended part. You get a little bit of chartreuse and a little bit of tan in it as well. About the size of a big pin, maybe a little smaller. Just hold this end, get a toothbrush or something and brush it all out on the countertop just for those under fibers. You don't need those in there. Okay. I like to make the fly roughly 2 to 2.5 inches long. and this is just the core. So what I like to do is I take 3, 4, maybe 5 really loose wraps. I put no tension on this, and then just let it hang. And then all you'll do is you'll take your fingers and manipulate your hair all the way around the hook. Get some good coverage. Okay. You can put the super glue on now or after you've tightened it up. It doesn't make a difference. Just tighten it up and go ahead and get that bad boy in place. Don't put a ton of tension on it, because what you'll do, especially if this hair is a little bit hollow, it'll make it fan out, and you want the slicker profile to be with the underfibers. We'll let it fan out at the end. Take some of your tan, just straight out of the center is fine. Just make sure the fibers that you're cutting out are going to be slightly longer than the ones that you just put on once they're reverse tied in. Brush them out. You can pinch and pull the remainder. And all I'm doing is tapping on the table to even up all my fibers. So reverse tie it right here. Same thing as before. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 5 just to make sure we're all good. Now I know I said I was going to put some lead wire on this one, but I did not. That's okay. It doesn't have to have lead wire. But if you want lead wire, just put the lead wire on before you tie your bucktail in. Hopefully you're familiar with the easiest way to tie in bucktail or lead wire. And I'm just trying to pull out a little bit more of the hair. I don't think it's going to be as long as I'd like it, but make sure we have good coverage. And on this one, I'll put the glue on afterwards. So pinch it down. It's okay if it flares out. We're going to reverse tie it in. I usually just cut with the hook. That way we can hide the thread body. Nice and tight now. Let's just stop the thread there. You can do this with your fingers, or you can do it with a casing of a pen or a bullet shell or whatever you want. You can just push it right over, push everything back, or you can do it with your fingers and pull everything back. We're going to do it with the casing today. We're going to build up that thread body right there up against it. Kind of make a nice little thread dam. Okay. Then all we're going to do is pull back all this hair. Nice and symmetrical. And we're going to put a loose not tight. The hardest part is getting this started. We're going to put a loose thread body right up against it and try to cover it and build it up a little bit higher. And if you prefer not to do the thread body off the nose, you don't have to. You can always get a little bit of resin or super glue. You can accomplish the same thing. But this guy's going to hit a lot of rocks. So I typically like to give him a good foundation. It pulls that profile back fairly well. The hard part is done at this point. Now it's just a matter of putting your eyes on and taking it out to fish. This resin works just fine. The other option, if you do not have resin, I believe it's called E9000. I thought I had some here, but I don't see it. But E9000 is a really good adhesive that typically doesn't lose its shape. Now, once you get a little more comfortable with tying this, it shouldn't take very long. Maybe 8 minutes of fly. And those 8 minutes will be well worth the work the second you fish it. And once again, it's called the Rockarts Redeye Rambler. And all we do is coat it up. Really kind of lock those eyes in. Get all of our thread coated. And you can use a thinner formula if you would like on the thread body. This fly is subjective to a lot of change, given what materials you have available and what kind of fly tire you are. You may want to do it textbook, the way that I do it, or you may want to be creative or resourceful. Okay. At this point, pull your flash up. and you have made your very own Redeye Rambler, the Rockarts Rambler. It works for other small bass and species like that. But I hope you enjoyed it, and tight lines.